All right, guys, I have come to a stopping point. I have a flare nut wrench, but it is not doing its job. It is trying to strip this one right here, and also this one up here will not budge. So I ordered a higher quality flare nut wrench. It's by Mac Tools, so hopefully that will be better and it won't actually strip out my brake lines. Anyways, I did get some of the ABS modules out, or the components. All the sensors weighed 2.2 pounds. This big guy right here weighed 18 pounds. And then this little fuse box harness area, this component weighed 1.4 pounds. And then not pictured, the harness and the ABS computer weighed 9.2 pounds. So all in all, so far, I'm up to losing 30.8 pounds out of my Integra by taking out the ABS system. And I don't even have it all 100% out yet. Obviously, I don't have the ABS brake lines out yet. You can see them all there. But anyways, I am to the point, while I'm waiting for that tool to be delivered, I'm to the point that I can go ahead and upgrade the rest of the braking system. As you can see, I already have Goodrich stainless steel braided brake lines in here. I just installed these, both front and rear, and they look great. But now I have something else to install. These are Centric parts, and these particular ones are cryogenically treated rotors. So this part and also the fins are coated, so it makes it stronger, resistant to corrode and rust and things like that. And this is an overall better model. This is, I think, it's basically the best rotor you can get from Centric that is still a blank rotor. So that's pretty cool. And then I also got some Centric brake pads. These are actually, I believe, ceramic, so they're not like race brake pads or anything. These are by Centric as well, and these actually have the same stats as the Hawk street pads. They have the same stopping power, the same dust level, and the same noise level as the Hawk pads, but they're like, you know, less than half the price. You know what I mean? So this is a good value right here. These will be good on the Centric rotors. So let's go ahead and get these old rusted rotors and pads off the car. So I normally would just keep these rotors and pads, like they didn't, you know, give me any noise or any troubles or anything like that, except for one thing. It actually did give me some trouble. Whenever I would hit the brakes, the steering wheel would kind of shake a little bit. So I think that, I don't know if it's the front or the rears or which rotor it is, but I think that some of the rotors may be warped. So I'm gonna, you know, whenever you change out rotors, it's a good idea also change out the pads, even though I believe the pads on the car have good wear all the way around. But hey, I'm doing a brake upgrade, so just a brake refresh. So anyways, let's go ahead and get these cryo rotors and these pads on the car. I am going to go ahead and undo these two screws right here to take off the rotor. By the way, I wanted to point out these screws. I know a lot of people know, if you know, you know. These can be locked in there sometimes, just like corroded as heck, you know. But you need this. This is a impact screwdriver that is actually made in Japan. It looks like a Phillips, but it's actually a little different on the tip. And these are like perfect for fitting in these screws. And it is made for that. You see how easy that was? There we go. See? You can use an impact, but I find that, man, this screwdriver right here, I got this off of Amazon. This one works perfect. It even says made in Japan, so it's a little different than your normal Phillips. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and take off the rest of these caliper bolts, get this out of the way. Let's see if we can get this rotor off. All right, you can see that I have the caliper off. I have it just laying here on the tie rod end, so they'll be just fine there. The brake line isn't kinked or anything. So I'm definitely going to go back and put some brake cleaner on a rag and clean along this cylinder right here, and maybe clean up on the caliper a little bit. So I just wanted to show you this caliper bracket here. I took out the two pins that hold it to the actual caliper, and then the slide pins, you can see here, they just slide right out. I actually do have some replacement slide pins. I ordered these a long time ago, and they actually discontinued these. See right here, there's the part number for the bottom ones, and then the ones on the top are a different part number. So that's pretty cool that I already had those. So during this time, I'm also going to take out these slide pins and replace them, put some fresh silicone lubricant on them. Just in case you aren't familiar with brakes, I just want to show you, see that top bolt right there that holds on the caliper mounting bracket, and then there's also one, there it is, right there. So I'm going to undo those. Those are actually held on by 80 foot-pounds, so I may need to get a breaker bar on those. I don't know. I'll see. Alright guys, so I was just comparing these pads right here. These are the old pads. These are actually Honda OEM pads, but I find it very interesting. You see how the wear mark is just barely visible? And then I was looking at these new pads. The wear indicator is almost all the way to the bottom. You see that right in the middle of the pad? Almost all the way to the bottom. These are only like maybe 1 or 2 millimeters, have more meat on them. Like probably about 2 millimeters more than this, but look, the Honda pad has so much more, you know, pad on it, you know, after the wear mark is done with. So I just thought that that was interesting. You know, that one has so much more meat on it, and then this one, the wear mark goes almost all the way down. Anyway, it's just an observation. Well, I kind of cleaned up the cylinder along the caliper here. In the caliper here, I just sprayed some brake clean on a rag and just kind of cleaned that up. Here's all the old hardware. Of course, it's dirty. The new Centric brake pads come with new hardware. And then this caliper mounting bracket, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. Probably with just some spray with some brake clean outside, and then of course, like I said, I have some new shiny new Honda OEM slide pins. So the new top slide pins look extremely similar to the rear, or I should say to the bottom slide pins. And you can see that this is a complete smooth surface, and these are the exact same size and look almost exact, except these have little tiny flat ridges in them. So that this is the bottom one, this one goes in here, and then the other one goes in here. So I was just noticing that is an odd difference right there. You can see that little ridge on there. So that's the difference between the top one and the bottom one, even though they are the exact same size and fitment and everything. Anyways, I went ahead and got my rag and I cleaned out all the dirty old silicone that was in these rubber boots here, and then I actually kind of put the paper towel down in there, and I just basically just did a really thorough clean of this brake caliper. So I put it all back together. It's all clean. I obviously have my new slide pins here, so I'm gonna go ahead and get some silicone grease, put them on these pins and insert them. We can get this back on. Actually, first we need to take off this old rotor. All right, new rotor is off. I have my mask on because I am going to use my brush here to get off all this rust. You want a good surface for the rotor, you know, to sit absolutely flush to. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go all the way around this hub, just kind of clean it up a little bit and then hit it with some brake clean. By the way, my new slide pins are looking great in there. This is the type of silicone I use, by the way. This stuff right here is Sil Glide. It's just regular silicone lubricant. Works great. Alright guys, so nice. I've already cleaned the rotor on the front side and the back side with brake cleaner to get all of the oil off of the rotor. Man, that looks so nice. So much better than that rusted plate that was on there. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and put the caliper bracket back on. As I said, it's all lubed up and ready to go. Slide pins have silicone grease all in there. Then I'll put the caliper back on. I'm going to torque these down to spec. Alright guys, I got this bolt and this top bolt right here tightened down to 80 foot-pounds, and then the slider pins, which is this bolt right here and this one right here, these are torqued down to 23 foot-pounds on the 94 to 97 Integra brakes. The 98 Plus is 24 foot-pounds. But anyways, I got everything in there. All the brake stuff is lubricated, torqued down to spec. Ah, look at those nice new rotors. Excellent stuff. Goes great with my stainless steel braided brake lines. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and do the rears. There is something different about the rears than the fronts. All right, guys, so a couple things different from the front than the rear. In the rear, you have this shield, this black metal shield on here. It's held on by one and then another 10mm bolt. Let's see if we can find it right there. So I'm gonna take off those 10mm bolts. This shield is protecting the emergency brake mechanism there. So on Integra rear brakes, they're a little different than the front by a few points. Right here you can see there is a metal, it's kind of like a spring, this hardware. Luckily my brake pads that I bought did come with new hardware, so I have a new spring and, you know, a couple of hardware bits in there. So it came with these guys right here, this hardware, and then, as I said, this one that sits inside the caliper. You can see it right here. So I'm going to eventually take that out, but also you can notice that our cylinder is different, this guy right here. This does not push in, compress in like a normal cylinder or like a normal caliper does. This one has to be twisted, and I bought this tool right here. This has many different settings for it, this will fit many different calipers, so I'm going to find the right one that will fit this one, and then we are going to turn this cylinder clockwise using this tool. So let's go ahead and see how that works. Alright guys, so to turn that, I used this end right here, and you just place it in there, and then it has a place for your 3/8 ratchet, and then you turn this clockwise, and then it rotates this to where it slowly goes in. There is some pressure you have to give it, or there's quite a bit of resistance, but you'll eventually get it in there. All right, so now just like the front rotors, I'm going to go ahead and take off this bracket, take off these old pads, and then undo these couple screws, take off this rotor, and then lube up everything, the brackets, replace all the hardware, lube the slide pins, torque to spec, and I'll show you guys what the finished product looks like. Alright guys, I got the pads in. Here's a tip. Always put on the bracket first. I haven't tightened it, torqued it down yet, but I did put the bolts in. Put the bracket on first and then put the pads on. So it goes in so much easier. But anyways, I kind of lubed up the ends of the brake pads with this copper anti-seize lubricant, just on the ends on here and on this new hardware. Next, I'm going to actually put the caliper on. I'll put some anti-seize just a little bit on these ends, and yeah, that should be good to go.